The car doors opened to reveal the towering gates of Jungkook's private estate in Russia, lights glittering across the manicured gardens. It wasn't a place that felt like home. It felt like a fortress. Guards lined the driveway, standing perfectly still, as if trained soldiers rather than household staff. Jungkook's parents exited their car first. His father adjusted his cufflinks, his expression calm but commanding. His mother stepped out gracefully, her hanbok-inspired gown flowing elegantly in the cold night air. N followed behind with Jungkook's tight grip on her wrist. Her heart pounded painfully in her chest, but she forced herself to bow deeply, as was expected of a new bride in Korea, even though her hands trembled. "Welcome home," his mother said softly, her tone polite but firm. She touched YN's shoulder briefly, a gesture that should have been comforting, but only deepened the weight in her chest. His father nodded once, eyes unreadable. "From tonight, you belong to this family. Respect the name you carry now." Y/N lowered her head further, biting her lip until it hurt. Nah, I understand." They walked her into the grand foyer, chandeliers glittering above, and floor-to-ceiling windows reflecting the cold night outside. The air smelled faintly of incense and expensive wine, the house too silent, too intimidating. I/N stood beside her new in-laws, her small frame shaking under the pressure of their eyes. That's when Jungkook entered. The heavy footsteps on marble echoed before his figure appeared, dressed still in his groom's attire. His tie was loosened, jaw clenched, eyes burning like fire. He didn't hesitate. The moment his gaze fell on YN, he strode forward, grabbed a fistful of her hair, and yanked her head back sharply. YN cried out in pain, her hands shooting up to grip his wrist. "Ah, Jae Jungkook, please!" Gasps filled the air. His mother stiffened, his father's brows furrowed. But Jungkook didn't care. His voice was venom, dripping with restrained fury. "You dare?" he hissed, pulling her closer by her hair so their faces were inches apart. "You dare try to run on our wedding day? Did I not warn you, YN? No matter where you go, no matter how far you crawl, you will always end up here. With me." Tears streamed down YN's cheeks as she shook her head desperately. I was scared. I didn't want this." "Shut up!" Jungkook barked, the sound cracking through the air like a whip. His grip tightened, making her whimper. "Your fear doesn't interest me. Your disobedience, however." His smile twisted, dark, and cruel. "That's what I'll deal with." He jerked her head lower, forcing her to bow unwillingly before his parents. "Apologize. Right now. For trying to shame me." But before YN could speak through her choked sobs, Jungkook's mother finally stepped forward. Her tone was sharp but steady. "Enough, Jungkook." He froze, his chest rising and falling heavily, jaw flexing with restrained rage. His mother touched his arm, firm yet gentle. "This is your wedding night. A man does not begin his marriage with blood and bruises." Her eyes softened slightly as she looked at YN. "She will learn who you are in time, but let her learn slowly." Jungkook's father finally spoke, his deep voice carrying authority. "A wife is not a soldier to be broken, Jungkook. She is to be trained, yes, but with patience. Control yourself." Jungkook's grip lingered on YN's hair for one more suffocating moment before he finally released her, shoving her head away. She stumbled, clutching her scalp, sobbing softly. He leaned close enough for only her to hear, his whisper a dagger against her trembling ear. "You got lucky tonight because of them. But when those doors close, his smirk was dark, dangerous. You're mine, with no one to save you. His mother's voice cut sharply through the tension. Jungkook, enough. Take her upstairs. Jungkook straightened, running a hand through his hair as if nothing had happened. Then with a dark chuckle, he seized YN's wrist once more and dragged her toward the grand staircase. Her heart dropped with every step upward because she knew the real nightmare hadn't even begun yet. The suite was draped in silk and gold, chandeliers glowing dimly above. Rose petals littered the floor, the air heavy with perfume and expectation. The kind of room built for romance. But the tension inside twisted it into something suffocating. The door slammed shut with a metallic clang. Jungkook turned the key, slipping it into his pocket, sealing YN inside. E/N flinched, her pulse racing as she backed toward the corner. Her wedding gown shimmered under the light, but her hands clutched the fabric desperately, like it was armor. Why did you lock it? Her voice cracked, trembling. Jungkook loosened his tie with slow precision, his dark eyes never leaving hers. Because I don't want an audience, he murmured. Tonight, you're mine. Her breath hitched. I don't want this. I never wanted any of this. Please just... He closed the distance in 2 strides, grabbing her wrist and yanking her forward. She stumbled into his chest, the cold scent of his cologne hitting her. You think I care what you want? His voice was low, dangerous. From the moment I saw you in that pink gown, you stopped belonging to yourself. You belong to me, she tried to pull back, tears brimming. You can't force love. He chuckled, a cruel sound. Love? His fingers gripped her chin, tilting her face up to meet his gaze. I don't need your love. I need your obedience. Let me go, she whispered, fighting the burn in her throat. Instead, he shoved her against the wall. The impact rattled her bones, a soft cry escaping her lips. Jungkook's eyes darkened further, his hand pressing to the wall beside her head, trapping her. You tried to run. His voice was sharp as glass. In front of my guards. In front of my name. Did you really think I'd let you humiliate me like that? I just wanted to be free, she stammered, the words tumbling out. You ruined my life. You threatened my parents. You tried to run. His voice was sharp as glass. In front of my guards. In front of my name. Did you really think I'd let you humiliate me like that? I just wanted to be free, she stammered, the words tumbling out. You ruined my life. You threatened my parents. Jungkook leaned in, his lips brushing dangerously close to her ear. No, he whispered, his tone like silk over steel. I'm your husband. He yanked at her veil, tossing it aside, exposing her trembling face. His eyes roamed over her, sharp and possessive, before pressing his mouth against her neck. She gasped, trying to shove him away, but his hands pinned her wrists above her head. Stop, please, she begged, squirming under his hold. He ignored her pleas, his mouth dragging down her skin, leaving bruising kisses that burned like brands. She whimpered, each mark etched like a chain around her freedom. You'll wear these tomorrow, Jungkook said darkly, his voice against her throat. So everyone knows you're mine. Her sobs shook her shoulders, but he only smirked, tracing the red marks blooming across her skin. Cry all you want, he murmured, his thumb brushing her tear-streaked cheek almost mockingly. It only makes me want to break you more. He scooped her up suddenly, throwing her onto the bed with a force that made the frame creak. Standing at the edge, he tugged his tie free completely, his shadow looming over her trembling figure. Tonight isn't about choice, YN, Jungkook declared, his voice final, ruthless. It's about reality. And the reality is, you are mine. Her pleas dissolved into muffled sobs as he leaned over her, the room drowning in silence, except for the sound of her broken breaths and his dark whisper. Whether you accept it or not, you'll learn. I always get what I want. The lights flickered, the petals crushed beneath his weight on the bed. The confrontation ended not in romance, but in the suffocating reality of chains invisible yet unbreakable. Fade to black. The morning sun spilled over the tarmac, painting the sleek black jet in shades of gold. Guards stood in formation, loading luggage swiftly, while Jungkook's men secured the area. To anyone watching, the scene screamed power and wealth. But for YN, it felt like the walls of her prison were moving with her. Her parents had already been escorted to another car headed toward the airport, leaving her with Jungkook's shadow looming close. She walked silently, her wedding gown replaced with a simple cream dress his staff had laid out. Even the softness of the fabric did nothing to calm the storm inside her. Jungkook's hand never left the small of her back as they ascended the stairs to the jet. His grip was firm, possessive, more like a warning than an escort. Once inside, the luxury was blinding. Cream leather seats, a long sofa, polished wood, a chandelier-like fixture above. YN's eyes flicked nervously around before she slid into the corner seat, as far from him as possible. Jungkook followed, unhurried. He shrugged off his black coat, tossing it carelessly onto the opposite seat, and sat beside her. Too close. Always too close. The jet engines roared to life. Y/N clutched the armrest as the plane began to move, her chest tightening. "Relax," Jungkook murmured, glancing at her trembling fingers. "You're safe here." She swallowed hard, whispering, "Safe doesn't exist with you." His lips curved in a smirk. He leaned closer, his breath brushing her ear. "You're not wrong." The jet lifted off, pressing them back into their seats. The sudden jolt made YN grip tighter, eyes closing, and that was when Jungkook's hand slid over hers, warm, controlling. She tried to yank it back, but his grip only tightened. "You can fight me all you want, YN," he said smoothly, "but you'll never win." "I told you, running is useless. You're mine." Tears stung her eyes, but she bit them back. She refused to give him the satisfaction. "You can fight me all you want, YN," he said smoothly, "but you'll never win." "I told you, running is useless. You're mine." Tears stung her eyes, but she bit them back. She refused to give him the satisfaction. He leaned back in his seat, one arm draped casually over the rest, the picture of dominance. About what comes next, her stomach dropped. "What do you mean?" His gaze slid to her, sharp and deliberate. "I want to be a dad." The words hung heavy in the air. YN's breath caught, her heart slamming against her ribs, her lips parted, trembling. No, you can't mean." Jungkook chuckled at her horrified expression, leaning closer until his lips nearly brushed her temple. "Oh, but I do." She shook her head violently, tears breaking free now. "No! I don't want that. You can't." "Shh." His finger pressed against her lips, silencing her. "Don't cry. It's cute, but unnecessary. You'll learn to accept it." "I won't," she burst out, shoving his hand away. "I'll never give you that. Never." For a moment, silence stretched. Then, Jungkook laughed, low, dark, amused. He tilted her chin up roughly, forcing her tear-streaked face to meet his gaze. "You think you have a say in this?" he whispered, eyes glinting with dangerous amusement. "Sweetheart, I always get what I want, And what I want is you in every way. And eventually, his lips brushed her ear, his voice a cruel promise. A child. E/N sobbed, turning her face away, pressing against the window as though she could escape through the glass. Jungkook only leaned back in his seat, satisfied, watching her crumble. Don't worry, he added, casually, stretching out as if the conversation meant nothing. It won't happen overnight. But one day, you'll carry my air. And when that day comes, you'll understand. There's no running from destiny. The jet hummed steadily as it cut through the clouds, carrying them back to Seoul. But to YN, it felt like the sky itself had caged her, locking her in with the man who had stolen her life, and now teased her with the future she dreaded most. The jet descended smoothly into Seoul's private airstrip. YN's chest tightened as the city came into view through the oval windows. This was supposed to be home, but nothing about it felt like hers anymore. Jungkook rose first, adjusting the cuff of his suit jacket with effortless precision. He extended his hand toward her, but when she didn't move, he simply grabbed her wrist and pulled her to her feet. Smile, he murmured coldly. My parents will be waiting. She blinked, confused, trembling. Smiling? After everything you... His hand squeezed her wrist tighter, shutting her up. You're my wife now, YN, and the world sees only what I allow them to. The welcome. As they descended the stairs, a small group stood waiting. Jungkook's parents, a few close relatives, and the house staff lined in 2 neat rows. It wasn't the colorful, loud chaos of an Indian wedding welcome. This was Korean formality. Dignified bows, polite smiles, soft words. Jungkook's mother stepped forward first, her hanbok flowing gracefully in the crisp air. Welcome home, she said softly, her eyes moving between Jungkook and YN. She reached out, brushing YN's cheek gently. You must be tired, dear. YN's throat tightened. She bowed politely, whispering, Thank you. The staff followed suit, bowing deeply as Jungkook led her forward by the small of her back. His father, ever stern, gave a single nod of approval. No loud laughter, no flower showers, just quiet acknowledgement, as though they were receiving a queen into the family. Inside the mansion, the entrance was lined with candles and white lilies, Jungkook's chosen symbol of purity, though the irony stung YN's chest. The maids offered her tea as she entered, but before she could accept, Jungkook's hand slid possessively around her waist. He whispered in her ear, low enough for only her to hear, Don't forget, no matter how kind they look, you belong to me, not them. She stiffened, nodding faintly, trapped in his grip. At one point, his mother took YN aside gently. I know it must all feel overwhelming, she said softly. But give it time, child. My son. He loves strongly, sometimes too strongly. You'll learn to understand him. I/N forced a smile, biting back the tears burning her eyes. If only his mother knew the truth. Meanwhile, Jungkook's father clapped his son's shoulder, pride in his eyes. You've done well, Jungkook. She will adjust. Now focus on your future. Jungkook's lips curved into a dark smile. I already am. His gaze slid toward YN, who stood speaking nervously with his mother. Later, when they were finally escorted toward their private wing of the mansion, Jungkook pulled YN into the hallway corner, out of sight. She gasped as his hand tangled in her hair, yanking her head back just enough to force her to meet his eyes. You remember what I told you on the jet? He whispered, his tone playful yet threatening. Her lips trembled. No. He smirked. leaning down until his mouth brushed her ear. That I want to be a dad. She froze, her whole body trembling as tears spilled down her cheeks. Jungkook chuckled, releasing her hair, only to grip her waist instead. Don't worry, sweetheart. Tonight is only the beginning. Sooner or later? His lips ghosted across hers, a dangerous promise. You'll give me what I want. The heavy oak doors of their chamber creaked open then, and Jungkook led her inside. The mansion echoing with silence, the weight of his words following her like chains she could never escape.